Welcome back. All right, so as has been the case since training camp got going, there are 2 News of the Days videos per day. And let's jump into it because there's just so much going on because there's every team in training camp, and I'm just in between the first and second period between Canada and the US. Easy for me to say. Great game between Canada and the US so far. And honestly, I know I'm supposed to be waving a Canadian flag and cheering for. I love the hockey. I Whoever wins. I just love the hockey personally. All right. So the New York Rangers, David Quinn has come out and said that Shesterkin and Georgiev will split starts. It's not a given that Shesterkin's number one. He's not being handed anything. Right. That's the way it's supposed to work. Georgiev was very good last year, and I think it's easy to lose him in the mix when you consider the emotional departure of Henrik Lundqvist and the excitement about Shesterkin. Georgiev's a solid goaltender as well, so it's one of the reasons why I think the Rangers are going to be a team to watch. Hamilton. Dougie Hamilton wants an extension. He wants to stay in Carolina. Now, whether or not Carolina can afford that is another question. So we don't know what his asking price would be, what kind of term he'd be looking for, and whether or not Carolina would match what he's looking for. So yeah, Dougie Hamilton, well aware that his career's taken another step in Carolina. He had his struggles in Calgary. He had his struggles in Boston too. And now it's nice to see him finally reach his potential in Carolina. John Muckler, of course, this was yesterday. He has passed away at the age of 86, and it is one of those things that, people will say, well, are you going to do a video? I don't do the videos on the guys who passed away. And so I'll mention it here. I remember Muckler as coach of the Oilers. I remember him as a pretty good coach. He was a fair coach, even-tempered, and seemed like a great guy. So passing at age 86, that's... It's 2021 now, but we're still seeing just way too many people passing away right now. So, yeah. Muckler, there's been some really good tributes to him posted on Sportsnet, on TSN. I've seen some on Twitter as well. So, there you go. Seattle, making news today. So, watch as the Seattle Kraken now really start to double down on the fact that, hey, we've got to get our staff together and get ready. So, as we get into the season, they may look to hire a coach early in this regular season and start to come up with some strategies. And of course, they'll be doing mock drafts a lot in between now and when the actual expansion draft takes place. They hired Jason Botterill as an assistant GM. I don't have a problem with this. And for people who say, oh, Botterill blew it in Buffalo. Yeah, a lot of guys have blown it in Buffalo. He's an assistant GM. He's not the general manager. It's a totally different role. So, it's good to see them adding to their level of experience in the front office and adding Norm Maciver as the director of player personnel. That's a smart hire. So I think they said it was 14 years he was in the Chicago organization. Norm Maciver, what I remember about him is being the only good member of the Senators. There was one year that he's the only good member of the Senators. And he never complained, and I never saw a drop in his play just because the Senators team he was a part of was awful. So that's what I remember about Maciver. Maciver has experience with expansion. That's important. Just in case Seattle has a challenging experience, which they could this coming year, Maciver might be a good guy to have around to deal with that. And having him as director of player personnel, that's a solid hire for them. David Perron has revealed that he had sports hernia surgery in the offseason. He's fine now. He's playing. But it's one of those things that you would think we would have heard about, and we didn't. And you have to wonder how many players have minor surgeries. In this case, pretty relatively safe surgery that we don't hear about. There's probably a lot of them, to be honest. And so, good to see Perron's playing, and he's going to be on the top line, and everything's good. David Pastrnak is ahead. So the reason I'm wearing Boston is because he is ahead of schedule, apparently, where they're speculating he could be ready to go as early as February 1st. Well, opening day is January 13th, so he misses a couple of weeks of action. Who knows? If he's back February 1st, that could be a game changer. This is a very squashed schedule, 2 weeks earlier than what was expected. He was expected mid-February. If he only misses 2 weeks instead of a month, that could be key on a Boston team that's trying to prove that they're still an elite level team. So, all the best to Pastrnak, and Marchand's going to be back for the opening night, And yeah, so the two big names that there was a lot of talk about how they could miss a lot of time. Nope. So we'll see what happens. I really think Boston's season is going to come down to that blue line. That's where there's questions. So yeah, he's coming back. Meanwhile, on the injury front, Alex Kerfoot with the Toronto Maple Leafs, he was hurt during practice, and apparently they'll have a better idea for how long he might be out tomorrow. So they're not speculating much right now, just saying he got banged up, and we may know tomorrow as to how long he's going to be out. It is amazing how many players are getting hurt in practice, and I can't help but think about the World Juniors talking us. So we don't send players over; they get hurt. Guys get hurt in practice. Somewhere there's somebody going, see, that's why I don't play. That's why I don't go to practice. Practice. Why are we talking about practice? That guy got hurt in practice. I don't go practice. Anyways, yeah. So for anybody who knows, right? You should. Everybody's seen that, right? Everybody's seen that video? Of course they have. It was one of my favorite things. We used to watch that. Well, job. We'd fire that up like, all right, let's get this going before our shift starts. Watch this video. Watch them complain about practice, and then we'll go to work. So yeah, Kerfoot Hurt. We'll see tomorrow how he is. Logan Couture for San Jose is saying the right things. He is saying he believes San Jose will make the playoffs, and it may be one of those things that we can look at now and say, well, how in the world would San Jose make the playoffs? Well, we didn't see them falling off the map either. So it's really easy to have that recency bias and say, well, based on last season, yeah, this season probably won't work out for them either. But until we play the games, we just don't know. And I still think the dynamic of only playing within your division is the big difference maker, is the giant wild card to this season, that if San Jose has a good record against the other two California teams, that's 16 games right there, where if they're, say, 13-3 or 12-4, it's one of those things that we just don't know how this is going to turn out, and I think it's going to make every night fun. Gostisbehere. Shane Gostisbehere also saying all the right things, and that's the thing in training camp. Guys will always say the right things. He's optimistic about this coming season. He feels 100% healthy, says he hasn't been 100% healthy, and he's also glad he's still a Flyer. Heard all the rumors about trades and this and that, and he's glad he's still a member of the Philadelphia Flyers and has every intention of remaining in Philadelphia. So again, it's all about saying all the right things, sort of like Laine saying, I'm here, and Dubois doing the same thing, and here's Gostisbehere saying the same. So there's nobody who's saying, well, I don't really want to be here, and at least not publicly. But yeah, all the best to Ghost. I hope he does have a bounce-back season, because I know the offense is there. Also interesting news out of New York. Matt Martin is signing a 4-year, $6 million extension. So it's $1.5 million a year. And when this contract runs out, he'll be 36. So Matt Martin will finish out his career as a member of the New York Islanders. And so let me know what you guys think about that contract. I'm okay with the cap hit, I guess. It's the 4 years I'm kind of surprised by, just mildly. But at the same time, it's nice of Lou to show, hey, faith in this player, and we're not going to move him. We're going to keep him around. And maybe that's part of the deal with Barzal. Maybe Barzal wants a bridge deal, and Lamoriello wants to lock him down for a longer term. I don't know. We know that Barzal's there. We know he's on their roster, but he's not signed. And so that's the big question mark. And of course, there's still people melting down about the division names. I want to throw this in at the end of this. The division names have not changed. They're not being called the Scotiabank division. It's still the North, the West, the Central, and the East. It's just, the East brought to you by Carl's Jr. That's the change. It's nothing. I'm not going to be standing here saying, and here's the Toronto Dominion division. It's not going to happen. That's not a thing. It's not a thing. And there's still journalists up here that want to call it just the Canadian division rather than North, which I'm surprised they didn't just call it the Canadian division. But they want to keep it as boring as possible. I still think if you gave, Gretzky, Howe, those kinds of names to the division, I think that'd be more fun than the place that they're playing from, which in the Central's case doesn't even make sense. It's not a Central division. It's not. It just isn't. You might as well just call it the North American division, the various parts of the States division. because it's all over the place, and Tampa Bay in no way, shape, and form is central. So yeah, I also wanted to share something I did last night because I get bored, and so I went through the entire schedule from start to finish for this season and wrote down and counted out how many games there are every night. And the interesting thing is there are 0 days with no games. There's not a single day that there's not a game. There are some days where there's one game, but on each side of the days where there's one game, it's going to be pretty busy. So, for instance, the first time that happens is February 25th, which is a Monday. There's 11 games the day before. There's 14 games the day after. Then 2 games the day after that, 14 the day after that, 1 the day after that, and then 12 the day after that. This season is going to be a challenge, so I have changed the way that the preview board's going to work. Everything's going to be on one board, and it's going to be a lot quicker than the previews used to be in previous seasons. I would find I'd spend a lot of time putting together preview boards, and then I would look at the view counts at the end of the day and go, I got to find a more efficient way to do this because it's just not there. And yet there are people on this channel who like to make predictions every morning, and I don't want to rob them of that. The reviews are going to be done the same. The reviews, I had debated about whether or not to have a board for each division, but I've decided no, it's a lot more work than I necessarily need to do. It'd mean that I'd have to have like one game on one board, one game on another, like I don't want it. So just have, if it's a 3-game night, just throw them all on the same board. I haven't got those boards made up yet, but for people who follow me on Instagram, I showed a new updated version of the power rankings just for this year. I have changed the power rankings. There's going to be various things that I'm measuring. It's not just going to be 1 through 31, although I've gone back and forth and I've decided, yes, I can do a 1 through 31 and also rank amongst divisions, and there's other things I'll be highlighting as well. So just to keep the power rankings fresh and different, and then some of the stuff that works this year, I may keep for next year, but we'll see. We have until October before next season, and it's January, and this is so weird. Anyways, there you go. You guys are all caught up. I'm now going to go watch the second period of Canada versus the USA, and no matter what happens in that game, there are some very talented young players in this tournament I cannot wait to see in the National Hockey League, and I'm looking at Zegras and Cousins as 2 big examples of that. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.